So, One Tree Hill, one of my personal favorite shows. Such a good show. It's so underrated. It's been gaining a lot of traction recently, but not nearly enough as it should. And I personally have a lot of takes when it comes to the show, some of which might be deemed unpopular, others may be a little bit more popular than others would say. What's up, everyone? I am Ruby, and I make videos on my channel, basically kind of whatever I want to do. And I want to do a new series where I talk about things that I'm just interested in. Maybe things that wouldn't necessarily make, I don't know, a usual video, but things I just want to talk about. So it's becoming a video anyways. And I think one of the topics that I really want to talk about is One Tree Hill, because I just recently started rewatching the show, and I want to talk about it because it's definitely one that goes under a lot of people's radar, and it's a difficult one for people to really watch in full because it is 9 seasons long. Some people would say that it ends at season 3, some people would say it ends at season 6. I like all of the seasons. In fact, when I first found One Tree Hill, it was actually through YouTube. So, back in the days before copyright really was enforced on YouTube, you could watch various clips of different shows on YouTube, and sometimes even the full episodes. So, that's how I found One Tree Hill. I think it was like 2011 when I was browsing YouTube, and I came across One Tree Hill videos. One of the first clips I remember watching is the one where Alex Dupre is with Julian Baker, and she does some TOS things. She makes her own OnlyFans, let's put it that way. And that was my basic introduction to One Tree Hill, was through Alex Dupre. And I was really invested in this Alex Dupre character. I was really interested in her. She really caught my attention. I also watched the scene in 902 where she is in bed with Chase. And that's a whole thing as well. And so, obviously this show caught my attention. And for the longest time, the way that I would watch shows was basically whatever was available, because this was before Hulu, really, and this was before the One Tree Hill franchise was kind of available, I guess. So I watched it on YouTube and other, not so legal sites, but I mean, that's where I watched it, because that's where it was available. And I watched from season 7 to season 9, and then season 1 to season 9. And that is kind of where my opinions on One Tree Hill stem from. As I said, Alex Dupre was one of my first introductions, as well as Julian Baker, Chase Adams, and Brooke Davis. And so when I started actually watching the show, it was really interesting because obviously season 1 doesn't start out with Alex Dupre or Julian Baker, and not even Brooke Davis right away. It starts off with Nathan Scott I don't know. I don't know where Prescott came from. I mean, I know where, but that's not what I meant. So it starts off about Nathan Scott and Lucas Scott. And basically the whole idea is that these brothers are rivals. Not because of anything really, but the fact that they share the same father, but they don't share the same mother. And basically, Lucas is the oldest, and he was basically abandoned by his father, and that's where Nathan Scott came from afterwards. And they're not too far apart either. And yeah, it starts off as about them two. And we meet other characters like Peyton Sawyer. I'm not going to recap the entire show because that's way too much, but I will, set the scene. And basically, for a while, we follow the characters: Brooke Davis, Nathan Scott, Lucas Scott, Peyton Sawyer, Jake Jugowski, Haley James at the time. Occasionally we see characters like Chris Keller, Chase Adams, and a few others. There's also some that are not so favorable. But we also see a lot of adult characters like Karen Rowe, Deb Scott, Dan Scott, and Keith Scott, and we follow them all around. And basically, it's one of those, I guess, adult dramas, teen dramas. I don't know. It's a teen drama or an adult drama. I guess it's a teen drama because it does start out as a teen drama, anyways, and it kind of evolves into an adult drama later on. Because we start out in high school and then we age up with the characters who eventually go on to their adult lives. So it's kind of like a mix of both. It's both a teen drama and an adult drama. Like from 1 to 4, I guess, more like it. 1 to 4 are their teenage years, and then 5 to 9 are their adult years. And it is really an interesting show, and it really does a phenomenal job of treating the characters like they are human beings. And they don't just sideline characters or ignore plot points. I mean, there are occasions where some characters aren't as strong, and other stories kind of maybe are a little bit weird, but for the most part, each episode is really strong. And there's a lot of controversy coming after season 6 because of a change that is made to the show, and that is 2 of the leading characters, Peyton Sawyer and Lucas Scott, leave the show because of real life reasons. And at the time, people didn't know what that real life reason was. Then basically the PR version was that Hillary Burton and Chad McMurray, the 2 people that played Peyton and Lucas, were going to work on other projects. That's basically the PR version of what people were hearing. And then later, it came out that the creator of the show, the creator of the show, he did sexually harass a lot of the cast members, female cast members, female crew members, and basically that was the main reason why Hillary Burton ended up leaving the show, because she got the brink of it, and as well as there was other reasons, like she didn't agree with the character storylines that they were coming up with, and they had disagreements with the direction of the story, and there was just a really uncomfortable environment. There's also Daniil, who plays Rachel Gatina, who also faced a lot of issues with the creator, and then agreed to only come back if she could work with Paul Johansson at all times. So that's why later in the season, in season 7, we get the storyline where Rachel and Dan Scott end up together. Also, spoiler warning. I guess I never really said that, but yeah, there's gonna be spoilers. I'm not gonna. I'm talking about the whole show. Okay, there's gonna be spoilers. I guess I should have said that. Oh well. But yeah, spoiler alert. And it's really interesting because the One Tree Hill fandom is one of those where it's not necessarily big, but it's passionate. So I suppose it's kind of like the Vampire Diaries, where it has kind of like a cult following, where there's only a certain amount of people that like and adore the show, but those amount of people have the loudest voices and are really passionate about the show that they love. And I don't blame them either. So we have characters like Brooke Davis, Julian Baker, Alex Dupre, Nathan Scott, Haley Scott, Quinn James, Clay Evans. There's a lot of others. And they're all pretty big focuses when it comes to the show, especially from season 7 to season 9. And there's a lot of controversy because a lot of like the newer characters like Clay Evans and Quinn James are seen as replacements to Lucas and Peyton, which I don't think is fair at all. I think that their storylines, as well as Alex's, and as well as other characters like Millicent Huxtable, they're all really important to the show, and I really like that they're treated like they're important. And none of them are flawless characters. They all have their flaws. I mean, Haley Scott, had the whole controversy with Chris Keller, where she, in season 2, end of season 2, she goes off kind of with him and goes off on tour, kind of abandons Nathan Scott, and there's that whole mess of a situation there. And so people don't necessarily like Haley as much for that one part. But for the most part, Haley is really good. I mean, she's played by Bethany Joy Lenz, who is an amazing singer. All the music in the show is really good, too. You have music like from Gavin DeGraw, who does the main theme song. They feature a lot of musicians, including part of the characters, as well as other bands that they feature. Some of the musicians they turn into characters. Like, they had Pete from Fall Out Boy. Wasn't a great actor, but I mean, he served his purpose. And there was also Nick Lachey that ended up featuring in One Tree Hill, as well as Jenna Kramer, who plays Alex Dupre. There was also Kate Vogel, I think is her name, who plays Mia Catalana. And then there is, of course, Bethany Joy Lenz, who plays Haley. There's also... what's her name? The woman who plays Erin in One Tree Hill. She's Irish, I think. She's also a really big singer. Jake Jagalski, Brian Greenberg, Brian Greenberg, who plays Jake Chakowski. There's also Chris Keller, who's played by Tyler Hilton. Is it Hilton? It's Hilton. There's a few others in there. Grums, who is the guy from the Wakey Wakey. There's a lot of musicians that are featured in One Tree Hill. And that is also really amazing because not always, in fact very rarely, you'll find music which is fully integrated into the show. And One Tree Hill is one that really focuses on the music. In fact, every single one of the episodes is named after a song. That's why a lot of them have really long names, because it's a song title. And in fact, they've featured a lot of artists. There's a whole Wikipedia dedicated to all the music featured in One Tree Hill, including an individual website where it features all of the music that is in One Tree Hill. And that is amazing. Also, the cast itself. The cast itself is really good. You have people like Jenna Kramer, Sophia Bush, Hilary Burton, Bethany Joy Lenz, Austin Nichols, Chad Michael Murray, Paul Johansson, Barry Corbin, Maura Kelly, Barbara Allen Woods, who else? There's a lot. There's a big old list of really great actors who were featured in the show. Oh, also Chantel. I don't know how to pronounce her name. Chantel, who is also in The Boys. She's also Patty from The Flash. I forget how to pronounce her name, but yeah, there's a lot of really good characters. I think one of the best characters in One Tree Hill, though, is definitely Dan Scott. He is a character you love to hate, and almost are willing to forgive at the end of it. I mean, there are people that will never forgive Dan Scott, and that's perfectly fine. But he does make a very compelling argument with his speeches and everything. And he brings up really good points too. Not necessarily in the best ways, not necessarily in the most effective ways, but he makes good points. Like the fact about his thing about forgiveness towards the end of the show, and how forgiveness doesn't really exist, I guess. He has a whole bunch of speeches that is really amazing. I mean, the actor Paul Johansson did a phenomenal job, and he's honestly one of the biggest reasons why they can never ever reboot or remake or continue One Tree Hill, because all of the actors were just so amazing that there's no planet in which anyone could upstage them or be as good as them. Because, I mean, Sophia Bush bodied Brooke Davis. Paul Johansson bodied Dan Scott. Like, he was Dan Scott. Like, Dan Scott was Paul Johansson. And Brooke Davis was Sophia Bush. And Peyton Sawyer, like, Hilary Burton was Peyton Sawyer. And, like, Jana Kramer was Alex Dupre. Like, there's no planet in which any of them could ever be recasted, except for Peyton's dad, who actually did get recasted, like, a couple times. So there's a few others, but they're very rare and few and far between. And the most powerful episode is definitely 316. And that was made, I believe, in response to Sandy Hook. It was one of the school shootings, anyways. And it was made in response to that. And basically it features the story of Jimmy Edwards, who is a bullied kid and kind of a victim of the system, where he becomes the infamous school shooter. But at the end of the day, he doesn't kill anyone except himself. And then Dan Scott comes in and kills Keith Scott. And that moment is so powerful. And that whole episode is so powerful. It's probably one of the best episodes in the show. Just in the entire show. Because of how well it's handled and how life-changing, how game-changing that episode is. It has a ripple effect all the way from season 3, episode 16 to season 9, episode 13. Like, its impact is so powerful. It literally changed the entire show. And it's just so amazing. And then you have what are other ones? 7-11 and 7-12 are really powerful as well. Because that's a scene that I saw as part of like the YouTube clips was the 7-11 where Sophia Bush as Brooke Davis, learns that she can't have kids, and there's this whole thing, and that there's that particular scene where, oh my god, Sophia Bush just really sells it. And really proves that she can act. I mean, if you didn't know already, 7-12 really proves that Sophia Bush can act and is really good at it. And lately, they've been doing these podcasts where they go back and they're watching One Tree Hill. Hillary Burton, Sophia Bush, and Bethany Joy Lenz are all rewatching the show. And then they talk about it in their podcast. It's called Drama Queens. And I've been listening to it. And it's been really interesting hearing people like Paul Johansson and Barbara Allen Wood and others, giving their own 2 cents about the show. And really delving into the themes and the messages that are talked about in Montreal. Not only that, but giving insight to some of the behind the scenes, including some of the problematic stuff that they ran into. And it's kind of amazing how good One Tree Hill ended up being, despite the shitty stuff that was happening on set. It really goes to show how amazing this cast is, because they didn't let one person or even a few people ruin such a great thing. And not a lot of shows would do that, either because it's just littered with just bad people, or because they just nowadays it's very easy for a show to get canceled, and when that happens you never really get to see what the full vision was, and people can argue whether or not that's a good or bad thing. But I think that it's great that One Tree Hill was able to tell the story that it did, because it touched so many hearts, including mine, but so many. And it has such amazing representation as well. Even though, some of the things didn't really age well, like Chase Adams, that whole thing with Mia and Alex, and then also the thing with Mia and Alex, and then that one plot line about Marvin McFadden and his eating this. Well, it's not even really an eating disorder. It's more just like he just gains a lot of weight and then is fat shamed on air by the woman who literally went through an eating disorder herself. Millicent Huxtable. And I don't blame the actors or actresses for that. I blame the creators, the creator who made the show, and decided that would be a good idea to have a storyline like that. My favorite characters, though, that is it's a pretty divisive thing about it, because I really like Alex Dupre. I know a lot of others don't. And in fact, a lot of people don't like Alex Dupre, but I love her. And again, to be fair, she is the one that introduced me to One Tree Hill, so I mean, it's not that big of a surprise that the one who introduced me to the show would be one of my favorite characters. I mean, I would say that my favorite characters definitely Brooke Davis, Stan Scott, Alex Dupre, Nathan Scott. Yeah. You know, there's a whole list. There's a whole list. In fact, I actually have a tier list that you can go check out. I'll even link it in the comments down below. There's a tier list that I made of all the characters in the show and what I think about them. So you guys can go check that out in the comments down below. And I don't know, let me know what you guys think of One Tree Hill, and have you seen the show? Do you wanna watch it? And stuff like that. I don't know. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this little discussion, and I'll see you guys next time for another video. Peace out, guys. It's been a blast.